Hello, everyone. My name is Drakmare, and it's been forever since I uploaded, but I had an idea for a project that I wanted to make a video about just for the heck of it. So, yeah, I've been really into FNAF recently, specifically the robots of FNAF, and I've been into robots in general lately. I wanted to make an endoskeleton, but that's a bit too complicated, at least for now. So instead, I thought, hey, the staff bots are pretty cool, so why not make one of those? So that's the plan. I mean, don't get me wrong, this will be a huge challenge. Easily the biggest project, most difficult task I've ever tackled. But I've got time, I've got resources, and I've got motivation. I just think it'd be quite cool to have one of these. So, that being said, this will be part one of four. We have planning, gathering resources, construction, and finally programming. And to be honest, programming is probably going to be the hardest by far. I not I'm not good with code. That being said, that's the last step, so I don't have to worry about it. And for now, all I have to worry about is the planning, which, yeah, arguably the most important part, other than doing it. But, anyways, the most important part to figure out is the dimensions of the staff bot, which I've tried to find online to no avail. I went through wikis, I've looked at reference pictures, I tried to find some blueprints, and I've had no luck. Which means I'm gonna have to figure all of that out. Not even the height. Not even the height. So, I went in game, did some scouting, looked at them, and I found a few models to use. Most important thing I need to find is a reference. Something to compare StaffBot to. Once I find the height, I can figure everything else out based on, the relative size of all the different parts, the head to chest, arms to base, all of that. But yeah, first I need to find height, then I need to draw out diagrams, and I've got some graphing paper, so that's great. And then there's the wiring diagram. There's going to be a lot of servos. There's the battery, the motors to drive around. You've got your sensors for the eyes. You've got speaker. You've got um, possibly some audio sensors, something like that. It depends on what I plan on doing with the quote unquote AI. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, first thing first, find that height. I'll be using Blender to compare the models. Credit to samlovesmath. Sure you do. For the models, link in the description for the DeviantArt site. They actually have quite a few different models, and what you're seeing now is one of them. And wow, this is actually really well made. So, yeah. Actually saves me a lot of work. I'm just gonna take this. The model includes a mop. I'm already off script. I wrote a script, and I don't just gonna close that because I don't really care. Anyways, this cube is Gregory sized, and I don't have a bottom plane, so these aren't exactly grounded, but you know, it's good enough. I don't know. This actually seems like the right size. It's... Let me add another cube so I can approximate how tall it is. I don't know why I can't highlight things. Also, the axis is kind of weird for some reason, but I guess that's just the decisions that whoever made these models made. Just eyeballing it. Good enough. So it's about 2 meters tall. Which for you Americans is 6.56. So about 6'6", which is very tall. That makes this as tall as the actual animatronics. So I don't think... Yeah, it's probably a little big, a little on the big side. Although if I look at my reference images... Not that one, 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 not that one. Where the heck is it? There it is. Actually, no. No, that's about right. There's that, and then there's that. Not to mention the bots do kind of lean, so, no, yeah, 2 meters. I'll take it. That makes my job easy. Yeah. Alright, cool. So, we have the all-important height of 2 meters, so I can just kind of slap that in there. And that's half my job done for me. And since I have this 3D model, everything else just kind of falls into place, and I can make just a crap ton of cubes to actually properly size out all the individual parts, which is nice. This also gives me more details, so I can see which parts actually rotate. Although I was actually pretty close. So we've got elbow, we've got wrist rotate, we have 2 axles per finger, that's 3 per hand, we've got this part that bends, we've got the chest that rotates, we've got the 2 wheels, we've got the neck, we've got the shoulder, and then the eyes are stationary, so that should all work out just fine, actually. Yeah. And these are actually lower than I thought, so it's nice to visualize that. And it's just nice to have a 3D model in general. The only thing I need to figure out is what size battery I can fit in here. And then, of course, I'll have to have my stabilization wheels because, yeah, there's no way this thing actually balances itself. Not without some pretty crazy software, at least. But that's not a big deal. It's not a big change. I can just kind of slap it under. I already have a battery in mind. It might be too big, but it's got, you know, it's 1.5 kilowatt hours. So it's a pretty big, pretty beefy battery. It would be ideal. But again, if, you know, if it's too big to fit in the base, then, oh well, I can find something else. That's a total of 1, 2... I might need multiple servos per joint, but it's a minimum of 1, 2... 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 plus 2 wheels. That's a lot of servos. The finger servos can be pretty small. It just needs to grab things. But then you've got something like... oops. These can go for now. Like this part, the middle area, that's supporting the entire upper body. So this might actually need 2 servos. And this doesn't... I mean, it's got the groove, so it shows how far this can turn, but then I need the inside and stuff. And fabrication's gonna be tough because my 3D printer's way too small to build full plastic pieces. And then there's the internal metal thing. I could just do fully metal and then paint it. I don't know. But I'm gonna go ahead and just measure out every sort of unique individual part that needs to be made, which is going to be a whole lot of cubes. Actually, I think I'm going to copy this model into a new one because working with some weird control. Yeah, there we go. Alright. This is the blender I'm used to. Actually, it looks like the modeler did some rigging, so that's pretty cool. Not entirely sure what to do with that, but I don't know, whatever. Anyways, just gotta measure it out, and then I've made a circuit diagram, and it's awful, because of course it is, so I'll have to remake it. But, I haven't found a good software to actually make it. I found this, and it doesn't even have a transformer, so that kind of makes it difficult, because how am I going to make the charging... I need charging circuitry, like, duh. But, I mean, I can maybe make it work. I don't know. There's also Circuit Labs, but that costs money, and I don't see myself spending $80 on something I'll use like twice. Then again, I spent like $70 on Filmora, so that's working out. But yeah, might also map out parts on the Blender file itself. The nice thing about Blender is that I can send it straight to my printing software, so that's nice. But yeah, no, it's cube time. So real quick, I just wanted to size out the battery. It's 37.5 centimeters by 18 by 10. This little thing on top's the BMS, battery management. I don't know if I'm going to use it. It depends on... I still need to figure out wiring. So that's a bit complicated. But this does fit perfectly. Well, not perfectly, but you know what I mean. Fits just fine into this sort of lower compartment, if you will. This is going to be a lot of empty space, especially the chest, which is just kind of connecting bits, but I guess that's kind of standard for robots. But yeah, I just wanted to really quick do the battery, and that's it. Back to cubing. So first I wanted to do these cables, since they're not quite as properly shaped as the rest, if you will. And also their cable instead of a strict solid object. So I found the length of each of them, which is 75 centimeters per cable. So that's 1.5, a total of 3 meters of cable. and they are orange and I'm going to say blue. So I found this spiral wrap. So at a length of 10 feet and half an inch is the closest size. This stuff should be good enough. So, hey, we've got our first part. So, I've been spending like way too long trying to find a good wheel. They are basically 14 inches, 14 and a half, but 14 is the closest size that they sell. The best I could find was this. So I'm going to have to find either a tire or something, and then I'm going to have to make a cover. But, it's close enough. But, who would have known that's such a niche size? The more time I spend, the more I realize it's going to be hard to find all the different parts. And those are just the parts I can get. But, whatever. Possibly the most important thing will be coloring, at least in terms of aesthetics. So here's some dark gray blue paint I had to go into my image editor to actually get the exact color, but it's just dark blue gray blue, whatever. Behold, the staff bot has been cubed. Well, at least every unique part, so, whatever. Here's just the cubes and then stuff without the cubes. There's nothing really notable, so I'm not really gonna say much. If I need more details, I'll go into it. Yada yada yada. Dimensions. We've got dimensions. Yes. That's all I really have to say. I'm gonna get started on the diagram, I guess. So, this is the program in action. You can see I'm just kind of throwing components together to figure out how the program works. Spoiler alert, not super great, but I'm just mostly trying to get a visual representation of what I'm building. So it's not too important. Gotta improvise most of the parts, just kind of throw them together. You can see me drag a lot of parts on, then just delete them because they don't actually help. It's a pretty primitive program, but what can you expect? It was free. The most of the power circuitry itself will be done through modules that I just have to connect. So it's not actually that big of a. I already have a power board for charging the battery. I just need a actual, step down. Then servos. There's one servo for every joint, except for the hip, which has two, which I just mostly for mirror. I want the whole bot to be mirrored. Ended up deleting the labels on them because for some reason they were all messed up. More labels. I don't know. Just kind of a visualization. It's not really that important. I'll have to fit in later. Deal. So the next thing to figure out, and possibly the most important, is going to be the skeleton, which is going to be all the internal parts that connect the servos, the wiring that hold the battery and the circuitry, everything that isn't the exterior shell, if you will. Everything you don't see. And that's both more and less complicated, because while it isn't, pre-shaped out, so I can sort of just fit it as it needs to be, that means I have to fit it myself, so blessing and a curse to have to do it from scratch. But yeah, I will likely use just some scrap metal, form it together, and weld, which means I need to learn how to weld well. I already have a welder that I can weld poorly, but for something that has to hold possibly like 100+ pounds, I wouldn't really trust it. So that's just one more thing I have to figure out. But overall, it's not a big deal. It's just some pipes and pieces of metal that just kind of form a general shape that I can then put into the circuitry and then slap some plastic and or paint over to actually make the final form. But yeah, I'll get back to this when I'm done.